Hello, everyone. Welcome to Court with Krissy. We head down to Kent County with Judge Rossi for this evidentiary personal protection order hearing. It'll give you a nice tingly feeling. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy is now in session.
For a evidentiary hearing on the matter of an alleged violation of the court's protective order. Ms. McNabb, would you put your appearance on the record, please?
Thank you, Your Honor. Lauren McNabb on behalf of the petitioner.
Very good. And Mr. James, would you state and spell your name for the record, please? Mr. James, did you hear me? I asked you to state and spell your full name for the record.
Yeah. One more.
And I'm getting a very broken up audio from you, Mr. James. It may work better if you discontinue the video and just go with the audio.
I can try going outside.
Sure. Yeah, wherever you got the strongest Wi-Fi
But
signal.
the spelling of the last name. Yes, sir.
Okay, I think I can hear you better now,
Is it
Mr.
better?
James. Yeah, that is better. Can you spell your name for the record, please?
Bradley James, Bradley Jan as in Nancy. Yes.
Very good. Well, Mr. James, what we're going to do is conduct an evidentiary hearing. I'll have Ms. McNabb put on any evidence she has of the violation. You are here pro se, that is not represented by counsel today, so you can cross-examine any of Ms. McNabb's witnesses, and then you can make any statement you wish or present any evidence you wish in defense of the saying you didn't violate the protective order, and then I will come to a conclusion and rule on the matter. So, Ms. McNabb, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to call Mr. Troy Tingley.
Very well. Mr. Tingley, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony today will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Very good. You may proceed, Mr. McNabb.
Thank you, Your Honor. You are Troy Tingley.
Yes.
Okay. The petitioner in this matter.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Tingley, how do you know Mr. James?
I don't know him personally. I'm just familiar that he is somebody that ends up coming down to visit a family member on the road that I live.
Okay. And how long has that been going on?
I mean, from the time I started having problems with him, it's been since the middle of last year.
Okay. And you applied for a PPO, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the date when that PPO was granted?
I want to say August. I can tell you for sure, but
If I told you August 23rd of 2023, does that sound right?
that is correct.
And then that PPO expired in February of this year, correct?
Correct.
And did you apply to extend that PPO or apply for a new one?
I applied for a new one.
Okay. And was that granted?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall roughly the date when it was granted?
It would have been in March 27th, I believe.
Okay. Thank you. And that PPO is currently active, right?
Correct.
Okay. So in summary, there was a valid PPO from August 23rd of 2023 till February 21st of 2024. And then additionally, a valid PPO from March 27th of 2024 till the present.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Has Mr. James violated the PPO since it's been in place?
Yes, multiple times.
Okay, let's talk about some of those times. Let's talk about October 5th of 2023. Do you remember that day?
One sec here. I'm just.
You alleged in the affidavit that Mr. James was following you in a tan van.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, he is. He is following me in close proximity, and then I went towards Knapp's Corners to where he is following directly behind me.
Okay, and how did you know it was Mr. James?
His vehicle, and with the close proximity of him driving directly behind me, I was able to kind of capture a picture as well.
Okay, and are you familiar with the way Mr. James looks physically?
Yes.
Okay, so you're confident you can identify him even through a windshield?
Yes.
Okay. Was this where was you said you were going to Knapp's Corner? Where was he following you from?
Out of my drive, and then I basically take a left to Knapp's Corners to where he is directly following behind me.
Right, and then let's speed forward a little bit to October 29th of 2023. Do you remember that date?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is Mr. James parked right outside of my home and business.
You can continue.
Yeah, that one is him sitting outside, parked outside of my home at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon.
Okay, and how did you know it was him?
Again, by the vehicle and by pictures and video. About that. Okay, my bad.
Okay, I was just making sure nothing was about to blow up.
Yep.
So pictures in the vehicle. So was this the same tan van from the October 5th incident?
Yes.
Okay.
And also November 6th and November 13th.
Okay. And what did Mr. James do while sitting outside your driveway or sitting outside your house?
On that particular day, he is sitting there with his brake lights on, and he is sitting outside the residence, and which is kind of what initially started this whole episode of him parking right outside of my residence and threatening myself. My family is there, my children and my spouse, and refused to move. I engaged with the police, and this is kind of what initially started. You know, he will make multiple trips just to drive by, just to harass, stalk, intimidate, to just all throughout all hours of the night.
Okay. And you said it was outside your home and work. Where is your work in relation to your home?
The building right next to my home.
Okay. All right, let's fast forward again. Let's talk about November 5th. Do you recall what happened then?
November. I'm looking more at November 6th.
Okay, talk to me about November 6th then.
Yeah, November 6th is again, I'm leaving. He is now directly on the bumper of my truck, and got his high brights on. This is roughly 12:31 in the afternoon, and he's following me down the road. And then again, I turn off, to Knapp's Corners. Same thing. He turns around and continues to follow me behind in his vehicle.
Okay. And then November 13th, I believe, is the last date that you have on your affidavit. Can you tell me about that?
And November 13th, I was working outside on my Bobcat. My children are outside helping me, and he comes by and then just drives by super slow. And this is roughly about 9:24 p.m. and then parks just outside of my driveway. We continue to watch him, document where he's parked, and then he basically is sitting there for a long period of time. I then proceeded to go towards him to ask him to leave. Now understand that my Bobcat goes a max of 5 miles an hour. I was able to get up next to Brad, ask him to please leave, and then there was a verbal altercation that occurred, and then I went ahead and called the police. Again, in the police report, it does clearly document, of the verbal altercation, including his witness statements that there was a full verbal altercation and him confronting me in a public place.
Okay. And for all of these instances, would you say that Mr. James was close enough that you were able to actually see him and identify him?
Yes, I've got clear pictures and videos, of that.
Right. And but you also saw him at the time with your own eyes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Oh, okay. And then has he, those are the only ones in your affidavit, but has there been any other instances since then?
yes, I was helping two of the neighbors putting down new crushed asphalt for their driveway, and Brad comes out to try to intimidate, sitting in his vehicle. And again, police come out, engage, and again, I'm doing work with neighbors, and Brad is just purposely staying right outside and eyes you to, try to, again, intimidate or do what he tries to do best.
Okay. To the best of your knowledge, does Mr. James live down your road?
No, he does not.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, does Mr. James work down your road or work for any of your neighbors?
No, he does not.
Okay. And then have all of these instances happened during the day?
No, they go all the way until like 3 in the morning. As the night goes on, the more obnoxious and aggressive he has. For him to admit that he's coming in to kind of visit family, but he will make 37 trips back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now he's got a diesel pickup that he will be doing burnouts, or he'll either go 2 miles an hour past my house or 60 miles an hour past my house, spinning his tires.
Okay. And I know you have a current PPO and that but you told me about something that happened, I want to say last week. Can you just talk about that? Because I think it speaks to the relationship.
Yeah, the burnouts, alone of just basically going down, and all our neighbors, we're on a group thread, and everybody else is identifying who it is, who's acting out in that nature, and it's going by. Now, we all have cameras, videos are going off, people are capturing this. Obviously at 60 miles an hour going by someone's home on a dirt road doesn't always make it easy to capture, but you can identify the vehicle, identify, who's driving.
Is there anything else that you think the court should be aware of?
That he has warrants currently open and out for his arrest. He has other court cases right now open for theft. He is a drug addict, alcoholic, and the later the day it is, the more obnoxious he becomes.
Right. Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. James, do you have any questions for Mr. Tingley?
Well, Your Honor, I do. And I guess I mean, does it have to be questions or can I kind of respond to this?
No, well, I'll have you make a statement. You'll have an opportunity to present your case after. This is just a cross-examination, your opportunity to clarify or, if there's something that you think doesn't make sense in Mr. Tingley's
Yeah. Well,
testimony to bring that out.
well, so my family has lived on this road for over since 1951. My mailing address is 20.
Yeah, and I guess the proper way is to say, are you?
I do have a question. Actually, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. James. You may.
Well, I mean, if he's got a PPO on me, I mean, why is he stalking me?
Right.
I caught him stalking me last August 31st, about 11:15 p.m. And I noticed a car.
Objection,
Okay.
Your Honor. Is this not a
Yes.
examination?
Right. This isn't a question that
I was
but he was doing coming out here, Mr. James.
One more time, sir.
Are you going to ask a question?
I was.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, first of all, why was he approaching me with a bobcat, trying to push me off? It was me, my daughter, and my daughter's mother in the van. I didn't know until he trying to threaten us with a bobcat. I never stopped in front of his house.
Go pick you up.
All right, and I think the question here, I'm going to reframe it a little bit, Mr. Tingley, is when you drove the bobcat towards his vehicle, was that intending to threaten Mr. James?
By no means.
Okay, and you said you drove slowly. Bobcats don't go fast, but I mean, it is a piece of construction equipment.
And I'm currently working, and there's a PPO that says he should not be approaching me in my workplace. And I made a phone call to the police, and I asked him to leave the residence.
And I guess to clarify for me a little, when you get up close to his vehicle, do you pull the bobcat beside the vehicle, or do you kind of keep it perpendicular? As like, if you don't get out of here, I'll give you a little nudge and get you out of here.
No. I'm
ahead.
sorry. I think there's others that are talking in the background here.
Yeah, no, and that's the only Mr. James testifying here. To clarify, I don't have you on video, Mr. James, so I can't really see what's going on in the background, but this has to be your testimony. You can't kind of utilize an assistant. It's as if you're on the stand in court.
He pulled up next to me, and I'm the one that called 911. First of all, I could never go 60 miles per hour down this road.
Your Honor,
okay,
objection.
Well, hang on. You're testifying, and I do want to get your testimony. I will swear you in and do that, Mr. James. But right now, just questions for Mr. Tingley. Let me go back to the last question. When you pulled that bobcat up to the vehicle, was it kind of parallel to him, or were you perpendicular to him? If you can,
I pulled up on the far side enough that even a neighbor came in with his pickup and drove between the bobcat and his vehicle. But I am perpendicular with camera and video on. I was able to capture the confrontation. I asked him to leave. He refused to leave, and then basically started the verbal altercation with me. Even after I asked him to leave, when he started the verbal altercation and making a comment like, "You're not going to tell me to F and leave." And that's when I then went ahead and called the police and had them come out.
And for my clarification, Mr. Tingley, are you aware that he has relatives down the road?
I'm aware that his mother is a caretaker for another individual of one of our neighbors.
Okay, she works there, but does she also live there?
I don't hang out there.
Okay, you don't know what the arrangement is, but that would be the reason that would bring him down there would be to see his mom, as far as you know.
He can claim that, but when it's happening until 3 a.m. in the morning, 30 sometimes in one evening, it
Seems
gets
like
a
it
little
would
bit.
be a lot of visits. Okay, no, I just wanted to get a little clarity on the picture here, and I think, Mr. James was trying to ask some questions or get some of that out.
Please.
Any additional questions, Mr. James?
Yes, I mean, there's Mr. Tingley's very familiar with the road. He knows how many potholes are. I don't think he could ever drive anything 60 miles per hour down the
Objection,
road.
Your Honor, I don't hear a question.
Okay, well, well, I guess, when you say you think, Mr. James is going 60 miles an hour down that road, Mr. Tingley, you didn't, put him on a radar gun. What I'm hearing there is testimony that you think he's driving too fast for the type of street it is.
Yeah, definitely beyond the speed limit or other means. But like I said, it goes anywhere from creeping at 2 miles an hour to try to intimidate as he drives by to, doing burnouts out on the street. And multiple neighbors, including myself, have him captured on video and photos. I mean, I've got an endless amount of documentation, and I could pull in at least the entire street that is experiencing his nonsense.
All right.
Your
Okay.
Honor, can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, go ahead. If you frame them as questions, Mr. James, I'll allow it.
Mr. Tingley, what were you doing on the property where I resided on August 31st of 2023?
Number one, I've never go to your residence, and I don't know of any residence that you have on the street. So August 31st of
when you
August.
came out there and your daughter and you were switching spots, what were you doing on the property I resided on August 31st of 2023? He's under oath.
Objection, Your Honor. With a PPO, we're only supposed to look at respondent's behavior.
Yeah, I'm right, and that's I'm a little. And to clarify, are you saying your residence, your address that I got here on the PPO, Mr. James, which is 56 in Dalton, or a different address?
I've never used that as an address, Your Honor.
Okay, where do you claim as your current address?
Well, there's 20 Tingley's Road.
Okay, and you live there. Do you own that residence?
No, sir.
Okay, you live there with your mother?
Actually, my mother lives next door at my aunt's. And you know what? There's a week after I got out of jail, 4 cops approached me over when I was down in the basement going through my belongings. I mean, I'm being stalked by the guy.
Okay, well, hang on just a sec. I do need to get your testimony. I haven't sworn you in yet, Mr. James.
Thank you.
Okay, so and your question directed on to Mr. Tingley, asking about August last year would regard that the 20 Drive location?
No, actually, I resided out in Lowell for about 2 months last summer.
Okay.
And, yeah.
So, Mr. Tingley, with that clarification that the claim was that you were on his property or near his property in Lowell last summer, did that occur in your recollection?
In Lowell?
In Lowell.
I mean, that's what I'm just trying to wonder here. He's got multiple addresses, and it's part of his little staging events here.
Yeah, I mean, would there be a place that you would have known him to be in Lowell that you went out specifically to?
No.
Check on or visit or stop by or whatever. Okay, all right. So you're denying it around, that occurred. Any other questions, Mr. James?
Yeah, Mr. Tingley's, he is under oath when I ask him these questions.
Yep, he is. Yep.
Okay, and there's, I have a few more because it's definitely misled that I'm stalking him.
Okay, well, I'm giving you some leeway here, but you do have to focus it on his testimony because don't forget you don't have a PPO against him, so he's not on trial for stalking you. If you're saying, boy, I don't really stalk him, but he initiates the incidents, well, that's something different. but you
But-
got to ask a question that brings that out. So go ahead and
Well,
do
yes.
your best with the question, Mr. James.
Yeah, for Mr. Tingley, the night I was arrested, and he said that I was intimidating him. What was I doing to intimidate? Because I was already here at where my mother is, and when he drove by, all I could think is, oh gosh. And he pulled up and put his headlight brights on me. What did I do to intimidate him? Because I have it all on video.
Your Honor, I would ask that he be more specific in that question as to the date.
Yeah, which date? I did see a police report somewhere in here that reflected when you were picked
I
up,
think
not on this PPO, but on a warrant. I think this is maybe March 1st to 24. So,
Yeah.
a couple months ago.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is that the one you're talking about, Mr. James?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I'll allow Mr. Tingley to respond if you did anything intimidating on March 1st with regard to Ms. James. What sort of intimidating behavior are you alleging that Mr. James engaged in?
Oh, Mr. Tingley, you're
Oh,
muted.
you're muted, Mr. Tingley.
I would ask that we kind of narrow the scope of questions within the date of the PPO that we're talking about, because I
Yeah,
believe
because
we
this
have
one occurs
August
during the
till
second
February.
PPO.
So
Yeah,
this is just a deflection of Mr. James trying to deflect onto someone else for his wrongdoings.
Yeah, I would agree. Right, we're not here on that March 1st. The police incident right now, Mr. James, we're going back in time. The most recent one was that November 13th, which appears to be you going past his workplace and home, which are next to each other, and engaging in some kind and I think that's regarding the Bobcat.
Yeah, I didn't know he was even behind me. I never stopped at his residence.
Okay, well, let me, I'll let you testify next. Let's get through the questions. Any additional questions regarding those incidents that occurred October, November of last year?
Yeah, I asked Mr. Tingley how many different vehicles has he driven or all them, because to say that I followed him, I've never, to my knowledge, one time have followed him. Mr. Tingley, how many vehicles have you owned or driven?
I guess maybe a little more focused question would be, Mr. Tingley, when you were being followed, were you always driving the same vehicle?
Can we rephrase the question here? Because I'm not sure what my vehicle type of this whole thing is even.
Well, I think he's trying to say, gee, I might have accidentally been behind you and not recognized your car. Is this a situation where you got a fleet of cars and he could have accidentally got behind you, or is there one that is distinctly you?
I've had one distinct pickup GMC Sierra that is clearly lifted, and he would drive by my home 30 times in one evening. He clearly knows who it is. I've got one other vehicle that I just purchased, for work, that was within the last 60 days, but it has nothing to do with the time frame of August to February of this PPO buying.
Yeah, just the lifted truck. And is that lifted truck a work truck? Is it marked as a work truck, or is it just personal?
It's not marked as a work truck, but it is, for my work purposes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think that answers your question, Mr. James, that I would have been following behind that lifted pickup truck that he's described. So any other questions?
My license plate has my last name right on the very front of it. We're
pretty apparent
to
that it's your vehicle. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I've got pictures, of me in that truck with him directly behind me. I
haven't received any of those into evidence. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me see. Okay. So it looks like you, sitting maybe in your pickup and back there, unfortunately, trying to look through the, combination of lenses here. I'm not seeing his tan vehicle, but you've testified pretty clearly that that's what's happening.
Yeah, I got better pictures. Obviously, these are printed off here, but if the court needs me to submit electronically, I can send them to Miss McNabb to share for exhibits or evidence, but all of this stuff, I've set up a full camera system on him. There's a full monitoring going on the entire road. Every single
You're
neighbor.
prepared to document in photos and videos everything you just told me, it sounds like.
Exactly.
All right. Ms. Janes, any other questions here?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
That's, Mr. Tingley knows that I live down here, and he
You
knows.
got to ask your question.
Well, I was just going to say, when he called the cops, how would he know what address I'm at when it's not even the mailing address to where the cops came? Because I was over where my mother was, not at my mailing address.
Your Honor, objection. If we're talking about the early March date, we've already discussed that that's not applicable.
Right. When the police came, I don't think the police, any of the incidents that we're here about today, if the police arrived, it was after the fact. They didn't come and they didn't encounter you. It doesn't sound like Mr. James. Although it does sound like the police.
I'll ask Mr. Tingley again. When he followed me to the stop sign 300 yards from his house, not only did I not stop in front of his house, I didn't know he was pulling up to us. And then when he pulled up to us in my van with my 8-year-old little girl and her mother, we were at
Honor,
let me just pause because I got to get some clarity here. Are you talking about the when he pulls Bobcat up with the Bobcat? Okay.
Yeah, Honor.
All right.
Is this a question, or is he trying to testify right now?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to get to that question. So, Mr. James, question.
I was referring to when he followed us up to the stop sign with a Bobcat 300 yards away from his house. Why would he pulled up right up to the van like he was going to push us off the road? I'm the one that called 911. Why would he, if I was such a threat 300 yards away from his house when I drive by his house every day from living here, why would he follow me 300 yards from his house?
All right. Well, let me rephrase that as a question. Did you have to go 300 yards from your house in that Bobcat in that incident that you described last November, Mr. Tingley?
I'll describe it exactly what happened. He is first parked right outside of my driveway, sitting still. All of us are in the driveway. He clearly seen me working because he identified it on the police recording. I pulled police recordings. I also have on a video. You're working
by driving the Bobcat, to clarify, Mr. Tingley?
Yep.
That's part of your work.
Yeah, I was on the Bobcat conducting work at that time.
Okay.
So he clearly knew that I was there working with it.
Happening.
He is now parked right outside of my driveway, parked. Now we're just doing the waiting game. What is he doing? What's going on? What's happening? So then I proceed forward to go down the road, to pull up next to him and to ask him to please leave. As I get close to his vehicle, he then pulls a little bit further more, like a little cat and mouse game, where now he's 50 more yards in front of me and he just comes to another stop.
Okay. And I'm still you continue kind of in the Bobcat.
Because I'm 5 miles an hour, right? I'm just barely trickling down the road. But so even if we identify that I did this all the way to the very end, he is just parked. There's no reason he needs. This is during a PPO. There's clearly documentation on there that he should not be sitting outside of my residence or workplace. And he is now just completely parked. He now on video shares out of his own mouth that he is down visiting family. He does not live there. Okay. And there's no time that he is living there at all. This Delton residence, he just sold the residence. So that was his house. He admitted that he lives in Lowell. Just because he uses an address because he's trying to escape all the people that are basically coming to collect on him, he may use the home to where his mom's at on his driver's license, but that is not to where he lives.
Well, and I could have many neighbors. He stated earlier that it was next door to the one where his mom stays. Is there anything you're aware of there?
Yeah, he is not. I've spoke with the owner of the property, and he was not in it. That house was completely locked down all winter long when he was down in Florida. And no, he was not staying there at all. And if we need to, we will continue this evidentiary hearing by pulling in those proper witnesses.
Okay, well, I don't think I'm gonna need to do it right now, although I am, eventually here, I'm gonna run out of time for this one, and I would have to adjourn it till later, but I do want to hear, because I sense Mr. Janes has a lot he wants to say here on the record. Any further questions, Mr. Janes, or are you ready to put your statement on the record?
Well, I do. I mean, if he has some video evidence, but Mr. Tingley is under oath right now, Your Honor?
He is correct.
Okay, because I was never stopped. This is a dirt road with.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you a chance. I think you want to say your piece, and so what I'm going to do is I'll any redirect questions for Mr. Tingley, Miss McNabb, so we can.
Yeah, just one very briefly. Mr. Tinkley, can you describe the layout of your road? When we were talking, you said that there's the Knapp Street here, and then your street comes in like this, and it's a dead end. Where is your home and work?
Technically, I have what you want to call either the first or the last house on the street, but I'm the closest to Knapp, not to the very dead end. And when you first drive in, my work is to the right, and then my home is right next to that. I have a call it a horseshoe driveway, and very visible from the roadside. There is no question that you cannot identify who's driving by, or the vehicle, or even the driver's, license plate, or even the vehicle, especially with where I have video cameras and all of that set up.
Okay. And so would you say you're the closest house or closest property to the stop sign?
Yes.
Okay.
I am the closest. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further redirect.
Yeah. And it sounds to me, Mr. Tingle, like Shady Lane is a dirt road, not paved.
That's correct. Shady. Yep. Shady Drive
Shady
Northeast.
Lane. Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Well, what I'm going to do, any other witnesses or evidence to present for the petitioner at this time, Ms. McNabb?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Then what I'm going to do, Mr. James, I'm going to swear you in. I'll let you make your statement. Ms. McNabb does have the right to ask you questions on cross-examination, as I might have some clarifying questions as well. I'll take that evidence today. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to a point to make a ruling today until I hear what you have to say. So if you would please raise your right hand, Mr. James.
Yes, Your Honor.
You solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony today will be the truth and nothing but the truth.
I do, Your Honor.
Very good. All right. Why don't you present your side of the story at this point? And confine it to that time period of last year. I know there is more that happens after January and arrest that happens in March, but let's not talk about that. Let's just go about, kind of when these problems began and worsened last year.
Thank you, Your Honor. The first time, the first altercation ever with Mr. Tingley, he was headed west. We were at the stop sign, and I accidentally cut Mr. Tingley off. He had the green arrow, and he was headed west, but turning south at the light, and I was headed east. When the green arrow went, I went straight, and I ran a red stoplight on mistake. I cut him off. I admit that. So Mr. Tingley he called the cops, and it was basically a road rage incident. And he told the cops that I ran him off the road in the ditch. And what I did, I cut him off in the middle of the intersection. I never ran him off the road. So
if I can just pause you, Mr. James, was there any sort of confrontation? I mean, did you talk to each other at that point, or was it just this traffic issue?
No, once I cut him off, he chased me down the road, and I had already turned on Shady Drive. Well, it was a road rage incident for sure. He chased me down, went over the river, and when I turned on Shady Drive, it's a dirt road. I veered to the left so he could pull up and, say what he had to say. I was relieved to know he didn't have a gun at me, in his hand, the way he jumped out. So
he gave you a piece of his mind that you made a mistake, and you owned up to it. So we know there's bad blood.
And I had
how long ago did that happen, Mr. James? About timeline?
Your Honor, it'd probably be sometime early last spring, if I'm not mistaken. But I think
before there was a protective order or anything like that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. No, I'm just trying to get a picture of our timeline.
That's
Okay.
that's the first encounter I've ever had with him. Uh, and then he not only did he tell the cops that he was ran off the road and made up a big lie, like he has footage of it in his vehicle, he said, but he didn't share that with the cops. He just
Your Honor,
shared.
I would object
Okay,
at this
well,
point. This
that's-
happened well before the PPO was in
Yeah,
place.
it doesn't appear to, he didn't put that issue down, I don't think, even to the original people. I
Well,
don't think.
trying to state that he's a proven liar.
Okay, well, all right. So, well, I mean, what I definitely hear is there's some bad blood between the two of you.
I've never
And,
did hurt the guy or anything except, just I think I laughed at him and told him to get off the testosterone pills because he's just way too intense. I think.
Your Honor, I would request the court ask Mr. James to confine his testimony to the actual violations
let's go to
looking
them,
at.
these violations. So he says, okay, bad blood happens all the time. People get off on the wrong foot with each other. They're in each other's face. They don't like each other because of whatever. All right.
Yeah, I've lived down here, and Mr. Tingley knows that.
Now, when you say you live there, I mean, clarify for me what that means. Do you rent a place? Do you live with someone? How do you do it?
I have a motorhome down here, and I did live with my cousin Danny, who is at 2 next door to my mother. Maybe not.
Is that where you kept the motorhome?
I'm sorry?
Is that where you kept the motorhome?
The motorhome's actually about 100 yards closer to Troy's than Danny's house. And my cousin Danny will testify. Matter of fact, he said I could give you his number to verify that. I mean, this is I don't ever, the only time I've ever stopped in front of his house is when he would flip me off and start cussing at me. And this is before, I never knew I had a PPO originally.
After the PPO, I guess the question is, were there occasions when you did stop? Or, he's not saying it's just stopping, but sometimes it's revving the engine or shining the brights into his place, stuff
Never.
like that.
I have only stopped when he's outside flipping me the bird, cussing at me. And I've stopped. I said, do you harass all the young girls that go jogging by as well? Because there's other people. He stops. I had a guy coming down here to buy a trailer, and he stopped that guy, asked him what he was doing on the road, and then tried selling him a trailer. And then he came down to where I have a trailer that I sold. And
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, I don't think that's
Can we
what
get
we're
the
talking
scope
about.
here? We're gonna run out of time.
Yeah,
here.
we're already
it's pretty obvious who's talking who, Your Honor.
All right. Well, here's what and I'm not a genius of insight here. Anything else about those? So you're basically, I mean, I'm hearing two things from you, Mr. James, I got to tell you. And one is, well, I never stop. And then two is, well, I do stop, but he provokes me to do that by flipping me off or whatever. It's in response to something he does. Well, and I guess the message to you is, hey, you got a protective order. You simply don't stop.
That was before the order, Your Honor.
Okay, so never since the order went into place and you got
not once.
Your arguments, you didn't stop.
Okay. Correct. I always
or follow
very slow. A matter of fact, I won't even. I record when I drive by his house because he shot my vehicle with a slingshot even last year.
Well, and I mean, none of that, is before me now. What I got to decide on here, and I mean, part of it is, well, driving slow or stopping across from my house. Well, you might want to record him or gather evidence or whatever, but the order, in and of its nature, says you can't go stop in front of his house and record him. You'd be violating the order if you did that.
I've never stopped in front of his house recording him, Your Honor. I as protection for when I drive, I'm forced to drive by his house multiple times a day, but I don't stop in front of his house ever. I didn't know there was a PPO.
And you're still living down there, Mr. James, or what's going on? What's your connection?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're still living there?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's where you lay your head every night?
You better believe it, sir.
Okay.
Sir, and Judge Rossi, can you help clarify? Because I think you've asked him 3 times and he really skirts the answer on this question, because I can imagine we coming back in here for a show cause very soon. But I would like him to put, just because he puts an address on his driver's license, he already admitted to living in Lowell. He's in Delton
for 2 months last year.
And
Yeah,
Objection,
well,
Your
no, I
Honor.
think that's, but he's saying now you're living at that address at Tuesday with your cousin?
I'm actually staying over where my mother is right now. My aunt's in Florida. So, but
What's that
I didn't,
address? And your mom's there too, or just you?
nope, it's my mother.
Okay. And that's what brings you down Shady Drive anytime you're down there is because you got an aunt, a mom, and a cousin.
Your Honor, there's 11 houses on this road. I'm related to people that live in 5 of them.
Okay, so you had a long time relations living on Shady Drive.
You better,
Okay.
my family, yes. Matter of
All
fact,
right.
I have all my possessions are on a lot right over here too. And I rent, the basement for storage from my cousin. And there's,
All right.
definitely,
Well, Ms. McNabb, any cross-examination questions for Mr. James?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. James, so you said you lived in Lowell for 2 months last year?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, and why was there that interruption in you living supposedly on Shady Drive?
Why was there a interruption?
Right, why were you in Lowell?
It was just a place to put my motorhome. And right now there's another RV down here too. And it just was crowded and there was things going on. My cousin's properties it's up for sale. Well, not officially with a for sale sign, but he's entertaining selling it. But at any rate, when I was staying in Lowell for 2 months, as I stated previously, Mr. Tingley and his daughter were, caught stalking me, and they almost got killed blowing a 4-way stop sign.
All right, and Mr.
Because,
James, how
yeah.
often do you leave your home? Do
How
you
often?
work?
I do. I would say, to better answer the question, I would say Troy lives on the first house on the road. I can't avoid passing his house. So I would say 4 to 6 times minimum a day I drive by his house on a minimum. And
Okay,
there's potholes. I don't do 60. I might not even do 5 miles per hour. The road is so set out with a tree that is so close to the road, you cannot go faster than 5 miles per hour near Mr.
Okay.
Tingley's.
Okay, and when you're going back and forth, are you going back and forth from work?
There's whether I'm going to the store or not. When I reside down here, I mean, I'm free to travel and roam. I mean,
well, you said when you reside down there. How often do you reside down there?
well, other than the 2 months I've been down here, and I never resided in Delton, where this PPO was originally sent, that I was never aware of.
Okay.
He actually owned the home, and we do have witnesses that can verify that. He's had people out at that house doing work when he's lived in Delton, so
That's
clearly not telling the truth.
It was never a residence, Your Honor, and I'm sure that kind of proves right there who's stalking who. I did own property, but the house was never livable. So,
Yeah, and of course, I don't know, yeah.
Well, there's definitely, we can prove it that he's completely lying. I mean,
well, and the thing is here is, I think I've heard enough testimony to gain a sense. Clearly, to say there's bad blood in this situation is an understatement. There's bad blood between the two of you, and just in the way you've been making your statements under oath today, Mr. James, I can tell you're still a little ticked off at Mr. Tingley, given the water that's gone under the bridge. But here's the thing: he's got a protective order against you. He's now gotten a second protective order against you. And I'll tell you, the way I look at protective orders isn't so much one person's right or one's wrong. These aren't suits, and I try to, believe me, avoid putting people in jail for violations of protective orders because unless someone's danger to someone else's life and limb, I don't think they do that. But I think what they are a message is, hey, if someone does find another person's behavior threatening or harassing. And, threatening's one thing where you're worried about getting hurt. Harassing's another where, hey, I'm getting woken up in the middle of the night. I don't like that you're revving your truck outside my thing or squealing your tires or flipping my family or whatever it might be. It
Yeah.
takes a million different forms. And I'm not saying any of these things, happened here, but I do
Thank-
believe that and this is my turn, Mr. James, so I got to talk and you got to listen, that there have been occasions where you have violated the protective order by slowing down or intentionally doing things to make contact with Mr. Tingley. I can just tell by the tone of the conversations that we've had here, the questions back and forth, that there is bad blood, and that that manifests itself in the potential for confrontation. The design of these protective orders is simply to keep the two of you as far apart as humanly possible, and to avoid, and it's also to prohibit communication. And I say, when I tell people communication, I'm glad you two aren't on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. Those are the worst. But, it also includes smoke signals, yard signs, planes, towing signs. We're not going to send a message to the other person as much as you might like to, send a message to him, and as much as he might like to in response to you. However, you're the one that's prohibited by the protective order, Mr. James, and you're the one that's in jeopardy of winding up in the Kent County Jail. If I get convinced here that you're violating it intentionally and you're disregarding my order, and that's the definition of contempt of court. So you've got to, if you got reason to go in and out of that place 6 times a day, and all I can do is take you at your word that there's some business you're doing there, you would best make that a stealth entrance and exit in whatever vehicle you're driving, so that there's no reason whatsoever for Mr. Tingley to focus his attention on you. There's no, I had another case out in Ada where this guy was like, yeah, I'm just honking when I go by my neighbor because I'm being neighborly. And I'm like, hey, she doesn't want you to be neighborly and honk. She wants you to sneak past that house. I don't care. And I don't try to parse these things down either by, to exact what, happens or doesn't happen. I'm not there. I can't see it. I have no doubt Mr. Tingley could probably show me some videos where you're behind him, and there are words exchanged between the two of you. And what I'm telling you, in no uncertain terms, Mr. James, is you've got to do whatever means necessary to avoid that. Or I'm going to say, you know what, Mr. James is trying to toy with me here and push up to the edge of this order, and then he'll come on and say again he's not violating it. And then my response is, well, Mr. James, my pushback is 93 days in jail. I.e., I can push harder than you can. So, and I'll send out a warrant. I'll send out the police to pick you up if necessary. So don't mess with this. Just say, you know what? We're in our own corners. I'm going to, I might want to send him a message, but even more, I want to stay out of jail. I'm going to creep by his house and not, I'm going to be as quiet as a mouse out there. Because I'll tell you what I'm going to do this time is I will find you violated. However, I'm not going to give you jail time. What I'm going to do, I'm going to have you go down there and get fingerprinted at the Kent County Sheriff's Department. I'll send you a letter. It'll give you some Saturday mornings. They're not going to check you in. They're not going to take you into custody, anything like that. This is just a fingerprint for the purpose of this PPO. But while you're down there, what I'm going to ask you to do is think long and hard about, is it worth it to spend more time sitting in a cell down here to get my point across? And most people, when they do that, say, you know what? This is a beef between two people, but it isn't worth 1 day of my time sitting in the Kent County Jail, much less 93 days of my time. Because once I found one violation, and I have no doubt that next time Mr. Tingley comes in, I'd be asked to review that pile of evidence and videos again. And another violation, well, then I'm just going to say, you know what? I've been down this road before. I do believe that you're violating. So you've got to be the one that takes the initiative to not violate that order. And that would mean even if you do see something that's provoking to you don't like that Mr. Tingley's doing, you just got to let it go and go past. Now, if you want to call the police and make a police report, I've never found anyone in violation of a PPO for calling the authorities or making an official report. Those avenues are still open. Your safety is still protected, but in terms of this beef that you got with Mr. Tingley, you got to be the one at this point that flies way under the radar screen, because if you blip on it again, I'm simply going to put you in jail, because I'm going to say, I've dealt with this enough. So I'm giving you the break this time where you're not doing that jail time, but I'm telling you, you're about 1 inch away from going in that jail door. And when I do it, I'll just slap it on there. Sometimes I do it 30 days. Sometimes I do it 93 days. Sometimes I put a fine on top of it if I think the fine's going to be better at making the point. You don't want to deal with any of that stuff. Just stay out of the clutches of law enforcement and the courts, and avoid this conflict that clearly exists between you and Mr. Tingley. And I'll tell you, if that involves moving your residence because you simply can't drive past there, it's irresistible to you to do it, you might consider doing that if the cost of things is doing 93 days in jail. Let things cool off, spend some time at a different address. You lived in Lowell for a while, get the RV out, whatever it takes, because you got everything to lose here. Mr. Tingley's got the protective order on you. I've just put another one in place, and I'm pretty clearly telling you, I don't want this case to come in front of me again because Mr. Tingley says, you know what, now he's honking his horn, or he's flying a middle finger flag when he goes by my house. I don't want to see that case in front of me again, because I'm to the point where I've heard enough. I think I understand the dynamic, and like I say, I'm putting you on notice. So just bear that in mind. Do whatever you have to do to stay out of jail. I'm going to trust you to be a grown-up adult and do that. And if you're not acting like that, well, then I'll do what I have to do on the other end. And instead of spending the summer fishing or lakeside or putting your feet in the water somewhere, you'll be sitting down there in the Kent County Jail, and I can guarantee you that summer would suck. So let's not go down that road appropriately in this case. That's my ruling today. You can appeal me if you think I'm wrong, Mr. James. That would be by leave to the Michigan Court of Appeals. Since I didn't throw you in jail, I don't think I would hire a lawyer to represent you on appeal, but you could ask me to do one anyways if you wanted to do so. When I send you that order for fingerprinting, I'll also send you the appeal appointed lawyer form, so you know what that looks like. If I do throw you in jail, that's the one you're going to be using. I can tell you the Court of Appeals doesn't decide any of this stuff for at least 6 months to a year, so you're already going to have wasted your summer in jail if it comes to that. And again, I try to caution people at this point of these matters. It just isn't worth it. So, but you're the one that's got to do it. I can't do it for you, and I'm sure as heck not going to sit out there at the corner of Shady Lane and Knapp and enforce traffic law. I'll just call the shots as I see them from here, and you're on notice as of today, Mr. James. So with that, we're concluded.
Thank you, Your Honor.